Welcome back. Well, yes, today we start off taking a look at election tribunals. Well, yes, election petition tribunals have been constituted across the country. Lagos, for instance, have started sitting, and so that's why this is coming to you today. We're joined now by Mr. Adekunle Ojo, who is a former first vice president of the NBA.
Second
Vice president of the NBA. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you so much.
Well, now that they've set up tribunals, well, compared to the last time, but yes, indeed, I see that even while that the tribunals, the panels were being constituted, there were arguments that went on amongst different senior advocates about the time frame, 180 days period, whether or not it was going to be enough. But then the CJN did say in his remark while constituting those tribunals that Section 285 of the 1999 Constitution, which stipulates that all election petitions must be heard and judgments rendered in writing and delivered in the open within 180 days is unambiguous. And so whether the argument was enough or it will be, he says, it's clearly stipulated there. What's your impression? You think that that time frame can be sufficient to tackle these cases?
Well, let's look at it from this point. If in the recent past it has worked, then I cannot see why it should not work now, because a good number of us have had cause to agitate at different forums, saying, look, we need time frame within which election petitions will be commenced and disposed of. Sometimes ago we had it just the way we're having it now. There was a time we tried to do it without the Constitution, without amending the Constitution, and someone went to the Supreme Court and said, at the end of the day, like the Aparaku case in Benue and a few other cases, the Omengo case in Benue, at the end of the day, the provision was declared null and void because it was not enshrined in the Constitution. That was the basic reason why. That is one of the reasons why the 1999 Constitution was amended as far back as 2010 or thereabout. And then the Electoral Act 2010 had to be, reflect this provision. So I think basically 108 years, give till eternity, cases will never end. If you make it open-ended, then definitely one way or the other will continue to be there. Give us 4 years. Nigerians will continue to do it, and meaning that if you have more room to express both the nonsensical and the reasonable ones, people will continue to do it. It's about playing your trade. Arguments come, people argue even when it is unnecessary. And basically, if you now have 180 days, which is enshrined in the Constitution, which is in the Electoral Act, no one can go beyond it, except you want to truncate the entire exercise. And what is the basis of beginning a job that you are not sure of ending? So I think one thing that I expect, that I want to believe has been done, is ensuring that we have as many tribunals as possible. Because I can tell you one thing, if we have just one panel in Lagos, and the panel is going to look at the close to 40 House of Assembly petitions, if it's going to look at the petitions for the National Assembly elections and the government, then definitely one panel cannot do this. So we need more panels. We need to engage more panels as time goes on, even beyond what they currently have now. That's the only way we can be so sure that 180 days will be complied with. You know, beyond that, some of the petitions might go beyond the first stage. Like the presidential is just about 2 stages, the gubernatorial is about 3 stages, the National Assembly election is about 2. So it might go, like the provision allows the gubernatorial elections, allows the petition to be litigated upon for about 10 months or thereabout. So if we have all of these in place, the moment we hit the track and start running, the better for all of us. But I think basically for now, it's not about whether you like it or you don't like it. That is the law. We cannot change it.
But part of what they also say is that it's not just about the time that they've got, but the thing also is that justice has to be served. They argue, some of the practitioners, that the practice direction that was given at that time, that even if you do all the front loading in Lagos, as they had once upon a time, and then they wonder, the time it takes for them to see that all of this comes to fruition, then the lawyers will come up with their delay tactics, that all of those have got to be factored in. So if not, because some lawyers play on that time, saying, well, no matter what we do, this, as long as we are sure that we delay, and if the judges are not, for instance, if they don't put their foot down on certain things, you just may find out that you don't utilize the 180 days properly. Yeah,
that's the reason why I want to believe one thing again, that why inaugurating or why convoking, why putting people, why appointing people to head the tribunals, the appointing body must have looked at those that have some, enough iota of credibility going for them and integrity. Because in all that we do, even the nation entirely, you need a strong-willed person to get certain things done. You see, there is no doubt about it that because this is the only trade that a good number of us know, people want to argue, even when it is infinitesimal, when it at the end of the day will not affect the basis why we are in court. People want to argue, no, you put S there, that S must not be there, and that can go on for as long as you allow it to go. But then it is for a judge what it is on to insist, look, this is not the reason why and you know, basically emphasis have always been laid that going to the election tribunals, because of the time frame that is allowed, you don't go into some technical issues. Because it's about you vote, you did not vote. Did the votes, are they counting? Were they reckoned with in the course of collecting it? The irregularities, and you know there is one thing, if you look at the bulk of the judgments that were passed in recent times, is about substantial compliance. If substantially there was compliance with the electoral guidelines and law, then definitely the tribunal comes out to say, look, we are sorry, yes, there could be some skirmish somewhere, somehow, which is natural. Yeah, people will feel disgruntled and not whatnot. But then, with what we have seen, are you saying in your heart of heart that this election could have gone your way? You understand? That will be the question at the end of the day. So, the issue of justice comes in. Yes, within this framework that we have, justice can still be done. That's the belief.
Well, that's the impression that the layman would definitely have. And you know, when you talk about the courts, that is the impression that the layman has in his mind or her mind, that it should happen. You know, it should be about the elections. But lawyers have shown over time that is not always what happens. I mean, there's always that, you know, very grant area called technicalities that lawyers have, you know, introduced, or maybe it's a part of the law, and oftentimes cases have been disqualified or qualified depending on how, you know, well you also meet with the technicalities. Well, you don't think that they will have a great role to play here as well? Well,
the technicalities, I won't really see technicalities and technicalities. Let's quote and unquote now. There are certain, if you flout the law, maybe perhaps your petitions were not brought within 21 days after the election, then definitely you are out of it. The law says so. This is not technicality. If the election, if your petitions are not brought within the time frame, then you can't do. If there are pre-trial issues that you ought to settle and you didn't settle it as at when, then definitely your matter becomes
because many get stuck at that stage.
Yeah, a lot of people get stuck at that stage. You see, where most people have problems really that I found out in very recent past is getting the materials that they will need, because apparently these materials will not be in possession of a party from onset. If there is any party that keeps possession of these materials that you and I or whoever wants to contest a petition will need, it's always with INEC. But I believe, is it with some of the party or thereabout made this an issue from Rivers State. I just wish that we can be objective. We can be as liberal as possible. Allow people access to all of this. If there were no conspiracy, if you have not contrived where you shouldn't be, then if there were no connivance over this issue, then you should allow them.
Do you think that
who should allow INEC?
INEC, yes.
The materials.
INEC, yes.
We do know that yesterday, one of the panels sat yesterday in Lagos, for instance,
yes.
and
ordered.
And one of the contestants or one of the petitioners requested for those documents, and they said they were not allowed access to those documents. Wouldn't that be a hindrance to meeting up with the 180-day limit?
Yeah, let's not deceive ourselves. It's a big one, right? But then that was why, if you recollect so well, the tribunal ordered that the litigant, that is the petitioner, should be allowed access. And it becomes an order of the court, which no one can dare flout. If for instance, The man who went to the court area and said, look, we have not been allowed access to the papers, the documents, and all that we need. We have not been allowed to inspect the materials at INEC office. Naturally, for a people who believe that we are advancing, you shouldn't have even hindered him in the first instance, because we all have a role to play in all of this. INEC has a role to play in all of this. You conducted an election. You shouldn't have any fear about someone coming around to inspect your papers. And apparently, you are supposed to be an umpire and unbiased one for that matter. You shouldn't find that difficult to do. This is where some people call it Nigerian factor, but I call it devilish factors. It shouldn't even occur in the first instance. We are not all born to be this unruly. We should do things the way it should be done. It shouldn't be until a court orders. It's natural. It flows naturally that you allow the other man. It doesn't matter which party we are talking about here. Allow him an access to your materials. After all, you have not done anything untoward. So I think it's quite bad, really, that you have to wait for the court to do that, because it's part of practice, delay tactics that we shouldn't allow. But then I tell you, when a thing is enshrined in the constitution, it becomes a constraint. Except you are not that constraint.
I'm just wondering. Let me quickly follow up on this one. Because, I mean, year in, year out, elections hold. I mean, when elections do hold, and then it gets to this stage, the tribunal, some of these challenges happen. Who takes note? Does the NJC or the relevant authorities in the judiciary occasionally review the processes and then ensure that things go smoother than it had always gone?
Well, officially, I'm not aware about who takes note, but let us say this way. As a concerned citizen, as a body, like let me use the Nigerian Bar Association as an example. We should be interested in what happens in all the tribunals. We should be able to send representative to all these tribunals, especially in those places. You don't have to. Someone doesn't have to come from Abuja to come and watch or observe what is going on in Lagos. All we need to do is, there are lawyers in Lagos who are members of the Nigerian Bar Association. They should be able. That is on the side of the Nigerian Bar. But let's say this: your body, that is the body of journalists in this country, you have done a yeoman's job, and you continue to do. You appear to be the key watchdog that no one has ever been able to cage in all of these areas. This information that we are talking about, without you, a lot of people won't know. So apparently, I believe that this is where the NJC is incapacitated. If the law says this is how a thing should be done, then definitely there is no way they can change it. But then I believe that report comes from every. You see, if you are supposed to make a return as a judge, as a tribunal, your return, because all the high court judges, all the court of appeal justices are supposed to make returns now, and it goes to a particular place. I believe that at the end of the day, each tribunal will make returns as well. And what is a return in this right?
Exactly.
The judgment.
Okay,
it's the judgment that you have. It is how you dispose it. It's not how you go about it. That is because a judge sits in his court is the lord of his court. Lord with small L now. Is the lord of his court, whether you like it or not. You have a tribunal chairman with his members. The law says that, okay, the chairman can sit with one of the, that quorum could be formed by the chairman and one of the members. So at the end of the day, nobody comes in from Abuja. The CJN cannot direct the affairs of that court. You are the chief, you determine what happens in that court for that period. And basically that is where, when a man is called upon to come and sit as a lord on the affairs of other men, that is where the fear of God should come into you. Let me do it right. Let me not allow an unnecessary delay tactics that will hinder the flow of justice in this way. So this is where...
Well, in Lagos, we hear that that's one...